born on November 1924. My parents were immigrants from Russia. Their names were Sophie and Jacob. I have an older brother called Morris. We lived in the Bronx for 10 years. Then we moved to South Brunswick, New Jersey. We lived on a chicken farm. I worked there for a few years. Then I went to Pratt Institute and did the art editing for the magazine. Then I went to Records and took art lessons. And my parents said that I shouldn't do it because they thought I wasn't gonna get a lot of money. But then I started to paint pictures. Then I took apart dummies and plastered them. My first sculpture was a picture of a man crossing his arms. I showed it to the Sydney Janis Gallery, and they liked it, and they gave it to other people's museum, and they liked it. And now I have a retrospective in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maya Lynn, and I was born on October 5th, 1959 in Athens, Ohio. My mom and dad were both teachers and were teaching at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. I have a brother 3 years older than me. We were born as faculty breds because our mother and father were on the faculty of Ohio University for many years. My hobbies are reading, drawing, and sculpturing. My mom and dad were both great at art, sculpturing, and poetry. My brother was accepted to a university in Paris, France. I was accepted to Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. During my years at Yale, the 5th Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund started a contest to see who can design a memorial for the Vietnam veterans. I was the only one in my class to enter the contest. A few weeks later, I was announced as the winner. It was said that my entry haunted the judges, but as they stared at it, they began to cry because it really reminds them about the Vietnam War. And it also reminds them about the soldiers that were lost in action and died because of wounds. Many years later, people me to design special causes. The Civil Rights Memorial in Montgomery, Alabama, the Peace Chapel Memorial in Huntington, Pennsylvania, the Eclipse Time in New York City, and many more. Thank you. I was born October 26, 1976. I was born in Perkins, China. The schools that I attended were Murphy Elementary School and Providence University. When I was an adult, I was the governor of China. I set up a plan to march up China. The citizens of Communist China were marching with me. The Republic side were holding little books with my picture in it and the laws that I wrote in it, and they were saying, we want to be free. We want to be your slaves or citizens anymore because you're unfair. And then after that night, I had a lot of stress, and then I thought, and then I went to bed. After the next morning, I got shot and died. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Confucius. I was born in 551 BC. My family was very poor. I was born in Lu. Now Lu is called Shandong province. My father died 3 years after I was born. He was commander of district in Lu. When I became 19 years old, I married, and I have 1 son and 2 daughters. Then I became a philosopher. My sayings I said was, what I do not wish men to do to me, I also wish not to do to them. And that's what you don't want other people to do to you, you also shouldn't do to them. Then I became a magistrate, and I made a lot of laws. Then after I made all those laws, there was less crime. And then my mother died in 527 BC. Then I became a teacher. I was a teacher for a while. Then I retired. Then in 478, I died. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Antonio Vivaldi. I was born in Venice, Italy over 300 years ago. At a young age, my father taught me how to play the violin. He did not teach my two older brothers because they were always getting in trouble with the police. At the age of 15, I began training for the priesthood. I was called the Red Priest. 10 years later, I was appointed to go to an all-girls orphanage called Ospedale delle Piatre. I taught them how to sing and how to play musical instruments. They would sing every Sunday. In 1709, I left the girls at Ospedale delle Piatre and returned 2 years later. In 1716, I started to compose a different type of music called opera. This became very popular in Venice. A few years later, I published The Four Seasons. This has become one of the most popular musical works of all time. Each season is described through a musical story. In this piece, you can hear the chirping of birds to represent spring and the howling winds to represent winter. I died of asthma in 1741. Most people don't remember me. It wasn't until 200 years later my music was found in a monastery in Italy. In 1950, the first recording of The Four Seasons was released. What you were listening to was The Four Seasons. You will hear one of the pieces from each season. The first one is the first song from spring. You can hear the chirping of birds in the beginning. This is the chirping of birds from the blues. The next one is going to be this. This is from summer, and it sounds kind of like the waves when there's a storm. The waves are right now getting a little bit calmer. This piece is a piece from fall. In this piece you can hear the snow falling and the howling winds. Falling leaves. And then the next piece is winter, and this one you can hear the falling snow and the howling winds.
was the MVP for 3 years in a row. I won the USA, the dream team, the gold medal, and now I coach for the Indiana Pacers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Shigal. I was born in a small Russian village called Whitefisk on July 7, 1887. My father's name is Zahar Shigal, and he worked in a store where they packaged fish. My mother's name is Figa Ita, and she had 8 other children besides myself. I was the oldest. We had a small shop next to our home where she sold sugar, flour, and other spices to add to the family income. In 1923, I moved to France, and I spent the rest of my life there except for 8 years when I lived in the United States. My paintings are about me and my small Russian village and the history of the Jews. My most famous artwork is the stained glass windows, which are in the Hadassah University Medical Center, and they are about the 12 tribes of Israel. I also have 2 big murals in the Metropolitan Opera House in New York, paintings in the Museum of Modern Art and the Louvre in France. I died when I was 98 years old on 1985 in France.
Hi, my name is Swami Vivekananda. Let me whisk you into the mystic world of India and other places around the world as I tell you about my life. I was born in Calcutta in northeast India in 1863. My parents were Vishwanath and Bhuvaneshwari Datta. My real name is Narendra. As a child, I was usually called Naren or Bali. When I became famous, I was known as Swamiji. The king of Khetri, which was a kingdom in India, gave me the name of Swami Vivekananda. My teacher was Sri Ramakrishna. I found Sri Ramakrishna through a family friend. Sri Ramakrishna lived at Dakshin Square, which is 4 miles north of Calcutta, before he died of throat cancer in Calcutta. I used to teach Vedanta. Vedanta says that truth is one. Vedanta also says that all religions lead to the same one goal. In 1893, I went to America. I went to America because there was a parliament of religions, and the British, who ruled India at that time, had sent Christian missionaries and not any Hindus to represent India. So some Hindus funded me so I could go to the Parliament of Religions and represent India and Hinduism. It was at the Parliament of Religions that I became famous. I became famous because I was the first person to say, "Dear sisters and brothers," at the beginning of a speech. After that trip to America, I went to other countries in the West, and I established spiritual centers in them. After I established the spiritual centers in the West, I came back to India, and after I came back to India, for the rest of my life, I fed the poor, nursed the sick, and helped the needy during famines and floods, until my death
in 1902. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Bicko, and I am here to tell you about my life. I was born on December 18th, 1946, in King Williamstown, South Africa. When I went to college, I studied to become a doctor, and later on changed my mind and joined a group called Black Consciousness Movement, which was a group to stop apartheid. Apartheid is when black people and white people are separated. One day, I was protesting in the streets with my friends, and I was arrested and by several police officers and severely beaten, which later on gave me a coma, and I later on died from it. I died on September 12th, 1977, and when I died, the rest of the world was mad and started protesting to stop apartheid. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Martina Navratilova. I was born on October 18th, 1956, in Czechoslovakia. I was a tennis player, and as I was growing up, my family was playing sports. My grandmother played tennis and ranked number 2 among Czech women as an amateur player. And my mom, she was a skiing person, and she was a very good a gymnast, and she was a skiing person, and she was very good at it, and she was really like an athlete. And as I was growing up, I grew up with my family playing sports, so I played tennis. I really started out on a tennis court when I was really little. I had an interest in tennis, so my grandfather gave me lessons, and every day, and I was successful at all my lessons. I had good speed at the age of 5, good vision, hearing, and I was a fabulous tennis player. Well, I always loved to volley the ball, but I wouldn't let it bounce. I had so much good power and good speed. I just wanted to get to the ball before it bounced, and I had to break out of that habit. So my grandfather sent me to Prague for a pro to teach me lessons for tennis. And I was successful, and I broke out of my habit. And as I was growing up, I became more successful, and I became a great tennis player. And in my life, I made a record, and I was a very good tennis player, and I beat many matches. I won doubles championships, and I had a lot of rough matches. Thank you.
I, Evelyn Van Beethoven, was born on December 15, 1770, in Bonn, Germany. As a young child, my father gave me music lessons. When I was a teenager, I learned 4 different instruments: the piano, the organ, the violin, and the French horn. I hardly went to school except for learning music. One of my teachers was Mr. Neff. He taught me all about J.S. Bach. When I was 12, my first song was published. When my mother died,
I supported my family by giving private music lessons. Even when I was deaf, I made better music than I ever did before. I appeared in my last concert. I conducted my Ninth Symphony. I was almost totally deaf, and I wanted to conduct another concert for the orchestra. When we were finished with the song, I could not hear. So one of the singers in the chorus turned me around, and I saw everybody cheering for me. They realized that I was deaf. I caught a cold in 1826. It turned into pneumonia, and I laid in bed for 3 months. Beethoven died on March 21st, 1827. All the schools were closed and everybody was sad. Thank you. My song was
My name is Maria Chiori. Let me tell you about my life. This is a photograph of me. When I was born on November 7th, 1867. I was the 4th child born. When I was 4, I only got to read an hour a day because my parents thought I was too smart and that I should grow at my own pace. I had a bad childhood because my mother died when I was 10 years old. When I was 11, I got some tools from my father for my laboratory. When I was 14, I received a scholarship for a school called Gymnasium. When I was 18, I became a governess because I needed the money. Now for my adulthood, that's a different story. When I was 20, I found a boy. His name was Kashmir. He asked me to marry him, so he asked his parents if it was okay. But they said no. So he asked me to run away with him and marry elsewhere. But I said no. It just couldn't happen. Then I married a man named Pierre Curie. I found 2 elements of radium and polonium. In 1903, I received a gift. The gift was the Nobel Prize. My husband died from a 6-ton wagon fell over him on a rainy day. In 1905, I received my 2nd Nobel Prize. I died on July 4th, 1934. My daughters finished my work. Thank you.
Sir Richard Rudolph, I was told that there was an emergency here. What happened? Well, anyway. Oh, yes, you were the class I was supposed to tell you about. Ah, yes. Anyway, I came from Germany. That is where I came from Berlin, Germany. That is where I first started to train myself as a doctor. After I was that everybody said I was so good that I should go to the Berlin University. So I went. And then I started saying to myself, this is too much. I should be going to helping other people. So I left to go to Poland. And then after a while, I thought, hey, there's too many people dying here. So I made hospitals. And then I started to be a doctor. Then I started to become famous and started to find cures. And one of the cures I found to be was pyloric stenosis. It's something that traps up your, what you call clogs, up your, system, like this. I was a piece of chalk. Well, anyway. There was something that's like, here you are all around you, right? Right here, where everything starts to digest. It starts to go down. Very little gets out and goes through. Since very little gets through, you have to have a lot, like every little clog gets through, and tries to stop as much food as it can. Now, that's the nature of disease. That is what I wanted to tell you about. And that is why I am here. I am here to tell you that the disease can prove deadly. When you can only go 7 days without food. I hate these contraptions. All right, I did not do perfect, but there is where the clogging is. Your food comes down right here. It clogs up everything you eat. So that means you can't eat anything. You eat something, it comes up in what you guys call vomit. Well, that's the medical terminology for it. But you guys may call it barf throw up. Now, here is where the thing you get. It just comes transmitted into your body. Now, here's where you eat. It starts to come down, then everything, it starts to send the wrong messages to your brain. It says you can't handle all the food, so you start to vomit. That is how it happens. But you could prove fatal in 7 days. But some, luckily if you're lucky, gets through. And what I found the cure was, you have to open this section up, try and cut this thing out without hitting any vital organs. Now, as I said, this is your digestive system. After all that's gone, here's your stomach, this little circle here. It comes down, you can start eating as much as you want. Now, then, after I went to Poland, I thought it was too much, as the same as Germany almost. So, I took a boat, went all the way here to America. That is why I am famous in America, and some in Germany. That is why I am so famous. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sonia Shen. First, I'd like to tell you about my family and my younger life. Then I would like to tell you about my older life. I had a mother, a father, an older brother, and an older sister. My brother lived in Honolulu, Hawaii at the time I was born. He was the first child my parents had had. My sister used to always complain about how her shoes hurt her and they were never the right size. I had vowed to change that. I was born on November 12, 1866 in Siangshan, Kwangtung Province of China. My parents were very religious, so when my brother came back from Honolulu, Hawaii for a visit and about to leave again, he asked my parents if I could go with him because he knew I longed to go. He saw it in my eyes, but my parents said no because I was only 7 years old at the time. I had a good education. I used to love to go to school. I would leave at 7 o'clock in the morning and return at dusk. When I was older, I was a fugitive for 17 years and had 10 failures. And the failures were the main reason I was a fugitive. I hid away, so some people didn't notice me, but a lot of people did notice me because I spoke in big crowds about saving China. And everything I did was for China. One time when I was hiding away, I met a man who said that there was a reward of $1,000 whoever could capture me. I told him I was just trying to save China and everything I did was for China to get a new government. After I left, he had hung himself because he couldn't believe that he would have betrayed me. As I grew older, I became struck with a disease called influenza, and that made cancer in my liver, which made my liver as hard as stone. The doctors found out that I had a wound in my liver and they had to sew it back up, but that didn't do much. On March 11, 1925, I had great difficulty breathing. I lived through the night and my last words were, "Peace, struggle, save my country," and I had died the next morning. I learned that you can't always succeed in what you want to succeed in. Sometimes it happens after a long period of time and sometimes it happens before you expected it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is General Charles Cornwallis. I grew up in London, December 31st, 1738. My father was the first Earl of Cornwallis and my uncle was the Archbishop of Canterbury. I went to school at Eton College and the University of Cambridge. I also went to a military academy in northern Italy. I received my first military mission in America. General George Washington defeated me in Trenton and in Princeton. I defeated General Gates in 1805. Then in the Battle of Yorktown, Virginia, General George Washington defeated me because he had the French fleet in the water. I had the only chances to surrender. After that, I became Governor General of India. A few days after that, I died of a very high fever. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Lloyd George. Let me tell you about my life. I was born on January 17th, 1863 in Manchester, England. When I was a year old, my father died. After that, my mom took me to Lansdowne in Carnarvonshire in Wales. There, my Uncle Richard took care of me. My Uncle Richard was a wealthy man. He grew up in a wealthy family. He was a shoemaker, he was also a Baptist minister. At the age of 16, I was an apprentice at law. I started the practice of law at age 21. I used these skills while I was Prime Minister. Being Prime Minister was not an easy job, but I still liked it. While I was Prime Minister, war broke out between Germany. I had to help Wales. In 1915, I stopped the shortage of ammunition, and in July of 1916, I succeeded Lord Horatio Kitchener as Secretary of War. At the Paris Peace Conference in 1919, I successfully mediated between the idealism of President Woodrow Wilson. In December of 1918, I was still in office. I resigned in 1922. I visited Adolf Hitler at Berchtesgaden in Germany in 1936. I became a severe critic of Hitler. I died in 1945. Shortly before my death, I became the first Earl of Dwyfer. Thank you.
I am Muhammad Ghani. I am Muhammad Ghani. I was born on October 2nd, 1869. When I was older, I went to the University College in London. There, I was educated law. When I returned to India, I was attempted to establish a law practice in Bombay with little success. And when I went to South Africa, I fought for Indian rights I fought for political rights for Indian immigrants. When I returned to India, I fought for Indian rights against British rule. In 1947, we won our independence. On January 30th, I was assassinated. Thank you.
Children, listen, my friends, and you shall hear all about me, Paul Revere. Hi, I'm Paul Revere. I was born on January 1st, 1735 in Boston, Massachusetts. My father came from France, but he had to come to America because the King of France was treating them badly because of their religion. I had a lot of brothers and sisters. I was the oldest one out of all my family, as well as my brothers and sisters. I went to the North Riding School. One floor is reading and one floor is writing. The North Riding School is located right here. One day, my friend from Christ Church came and asked me if he wanted me to ring the bells at Christ Church. I wasn't sure if I should do that because my father thought that they believed a different religion. But I did it anyway, and I signed a contract to ring the bells at Christ Church. This is a picture of Christ Church. Because I thought I would get a beating, because one time when I listened to a different priest, I got a beating. A few years later, the British and the colonists were not getting along. The British shot 4 colonists and wounded a lot of people. That was called the Boston or the Bloody Massacre. A few years later in my life, the king was putting tax on everything. But then he took away all the tax except the tax on tea. We got really mad at that point. And one time when a ship came in from England, we went on the ships and threw the tea off into the sea because we refused to buy the tea if it had tax on it. A few years later, the Revolutionary War started. I was a very good messenger. I warned people that the British were coming, including John Hancock and Sam Adams. I knew that the British were going by sea because I saw 2 lanterns hanging on top of the Christ Church. That meant that they were going by sea. We knew that the British were either going by sea or land to attack us. But I saw 2 lanterns, so I went by land, and I warned people that the British were coming. They caught me, but I let them go. After that happened, I started gunpowder during the Revolutionary War, so they would have more guns, and I started paper money. I made their own paper money. This is the currency, the money that Paul Revere made. I also started my own copper factory. I made copper for the copper trimmings of a boat, the nickname of the boat called Old Ironsides. After the Revolutionary War, I was still one of the best silversmiths. At the age of 13, since I started being a silversmith and apprenticed to my father, I became one of the best silversmiths in Boston. At the beginning of my speech, when I said, "Listen, my friends, and you shall hear all about me, Paul Revere," that was written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. That's not the beginning of the poem, but the beginning of the poem really goes like this. "Listen, my children, and you shall hear that the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 79, hardly a man is now alive, remembers that famous day and year." But I changed it a little bit to "Listen, my friends, and you shall hear all about me, Paul Revere. I died on May 10th, 1818, in Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you. I was born June 18, 1901. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. They are Olga, Tatiana, Marie, and Alexei. My father was Tsar Nicholas II. He ruled over Russia. My mother was Alexandria. When I was around 10, wars and protests started against my father, forcing him to give up his throne. When I was 10 to 17, more wars started and protests, forcing my father to give up his royal title. When I was 17, we were living in an old shack. Guards told us to go downstairs at midnight because we were told shooting was going on in the town. When we were downstairs, the guard read from a slip of paper saying we were to be executed. My father, my mother, and my brother were all killed instantly. My sisters and I took a little longer to kill. I died July 16th, 1918. This is a picture of me when I was born. This is a picture of my father holding my brother. This is a picture of me, my sister Marie, Tatiana, and Olga. This is a picture on the day of the shooting, what they thought it looked like. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Albert Einstein. I'm here to tell you about the theory of relativity and my life. In 1879, I was born in Ulm, Germany. I didn't do well in school, but I kept trying. I invented the theory of relativity when I grew up. That stands for the theory of relativity. I can't explain it to your lower levels, but I'm sure your teacher could. I was awarded the Nobel Prize, and I wrote 3 books. I died in 1955. Thank you. My name is Albert Einstein. I was born in 1879 in Germany. I didn't do well in school, but I kept trying. When I grew up, I invented the theory of relativity. I was awarded the Nobel Prize, and this stands for the theory of relativity. I'm sure I cannot explain it at your level, but I'm sure your teacher could. I wrote 3 books and died in 1955. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Benito Mussolini. I'm going to tell you about my lifetime. When I was a child, I was considered poor. In my school, we were divided into 3 different classes, money-wise. I was 3rd class, poor. At lunch, I was fed kitchen scraps. So when I grew up, I created the fascist party. When I was young, I was a blacksmith. After I went to college, I became a school teacher and a journalist. After that, I became a dictator of the fascist party. Fascism tried to eliminate the class struggle, often using violence. By 1921, there were over 300,000 members of the fascist party. I died with my mistress on July 29th, 1945 at the Ville Belmonte in Italy. I was shot to death by communists. After I died, I was hung in the middle of Milan, Italy. Thank you.
My name is Che Guevara, and I was born in 1928 in Rosario, Argentina. I was born into a very wealthy family, although at one time we lost all our money. I was born into a very wealthy family, although at one time we lost all our money. When I was very young, I had asthma, so I did not go to school, and my mother educated me herself. When finally I was sent to school and did very well. We later moved to Buenos Aires, where I went on a motorcycle tour to Mexico, and I saw all the problems the poor people had. I went back to Argentina and was about to be drafted into the army. I went back to Mexico, where I met Fidel Castro and his brother Raul. There, they said they wanted to make the government of Cuba fair so everyone could live a comfortable life. Finally, I decided that I was going to help too, but about a few years later, I disappeared for a reason only I know, but many people say I had a disagreement with Fidel. About a year later, I reappeared in Bolivia with a group of guerrilla fighters. About a year later, our group was surrounded and killed. Many people think I was a hero, but many don't. But I hope that everyone still believes in helping the poor. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Caneda. I was born in 1894 in Ichiwari. My name is John Caneda. I'm from the Kikuyu tribe. I was born in 1894 in Ichiwari in the East African Nation Islands. I was called a Kikuyu. I ran away from home when I was very young. After that, I went to a Christian mission school. I spent most of my years in England studying and learning about other loyal fighting against communism. I was put in prison by British in 1953 to 1961. After my release, I went to London to fight for independence. My party was one majority, and in Amaria. Thank you.
Wait, really? How to see you, boys and girls. I'm John F. Kennedy, but you can call me Jack. I was born on May 29, 1917. I was the 35th President of the United States. There are 11 people in my family. I was never unhappy being a child. I was often sick and I loved to read. I tried out for a lot of sports teams in school. I graduated from Harvard in 1940. When I was 26 years old, I was captain of the PT-109. There were 13 people on that boat. A Japanese destroyer split our boat in half. 2 people died. I saved 11 people. We had to swim 3 miles. In 1963, I married Jacqueline Bouvier. I became President of the United States in 1950. While I was president, the Russians sent missiles to Cuba that were bad for America. I sent troopers to Cuba to stop the Russians, and they did. I died when I was 46 years old. I was assassinated in 1963. Thank you.
That means a lot to me. And a lot of everybody here, all the faculty members you see here, don't have to be here. And they're here to help me out, and it's so wonderful having that support. And Mr. Andrew, I really appreciate the support you're giving us. And not only that, but now we're going to sing, and I'd like you to hear them sing. And I want to thank you before you leave for all the hard work that you're doing, making your students, your children practice for me. I appreciate that. And I thank you for coming out, and thank you for being a nice audience.
I hope I didn't get him. He knows it's
Mrs. Parisi wanted you to know that we performed this near flawlessly this afternoon. In case anything goes wrong tonight.
He's doing this too.